Hi, welcome to Airplane Arms, Navigating Back to School. I'm Jen Petronis, the Director of Health Services for the Anchorage School District, and today we're going to talk about COVID testing, when you should get tested, and which test you should get. Today I'm joined by Jennifer Cottle, the school nurse of Ravenwood Elementary, and Dr. Elizabeth Olson, staff physician of the Division of Public Health. Thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
So I think for this we need to start off with why you should get testing. So Nurse Cottle, why should someone get tested for COVID?
One should get tested if they're symptomatic. So if you're having symptoms, go and get tested. This way you know. So you can go out and get tested. This way we keep it out of our communities, out of our schools, and we're keeping our friends and family safe.
Okay. So if I go ahead and decide to get my child or myself tested, which type of test should I get, Dr. Olson?
Yeah, so I would recommend making sure the type of test that you're getting is a PCR or a molecular test. Both kinds of those tests look for parts of the genetic material in the virus, and so those are really accurate ones. So a PCR or a molecular test. Some places do what's called an antigen test, and those can be rapid tests like the molecular test. But the tricky thing about the antigen test is you can't use it and have it be accurate if you don't have any symptoms. And if you do have symptoms, you can believe the positive result, but if you get a negative result on an antigen test, you still need another test to find out if you actually don't have the virus. So if you get an antigen test, you're likely to end up needing a PCR or a molecular test also before you can come back to school.
So if I go to my local healthcare provider and I get an antigen test and it's negative, then I have to get another one?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Which type of test does ASD accept?
ASD accepting molecular and PCR testing only, so no antigen testing.
Dr. Olson, I've heard a lot also about antibody testing. Do you recommend getting that?
So an antibody test is a blood test. Some people will get it from a finger stick or a blood draw. Antibodies look for evidence that your body is reacting to the virus, but unfortunately these are not accurate and they're not a good way to tell if you have the virus right now. The main question that we're asking is, are you contagious with this virus? A blood test cannot tell you if you're contagious with this virus. So I don't recommend getting a blood test to make that decision.
Okay, so if my child gets sent home sick, it's really good to ask my healthcare provider to give him a molecular or a PCR test?
Exactly, that's what to look for.
Can you get those as a rapid test as well?
Yeah, so some places in town will have molecular rapid tests, and those can be run in 15 or 20 minutes.
Well, I've also heard that if I test positive, I shouldn't get tested again for a while. Can you explain that to me?
Sure. So right now what we're seeing is that most people who test positive for the virus don't get it again within the next 3 months. In fact, most people don't get it again as far as we know. So what we do is we say that because if you get tested again, you might still be positive from your first test even though you're not contagious. We say don't get tested at all for 3 more months unless you have symptoms. If you have symptoms, you should talk to your doctor.
Nurse Cottle, is ASD going to require everyone to get tested before they return to school, staff and students?
No, it will not be a requirement to have a test prior to coming back into the school buildings for staff or students. Of course, that's your option if you choose to do so. And obviously, if you're having symptoms the day school starts and beyond, then of course we're going to stick with our ASD symptom-free and stay home that day and go get tested.
Anything else that you want to add to this?
So the thing that we're seeing is that it makes such a huge difference if you decide to get tested right away with the very first symptom or if you decide to wait. People who get tested right away know right away, and that way you can protect your friends, you can protect your family, you can protect your community. If you decide to wait a few days, it's very common for people to have mild symptoms, and unfortunately you can give it to a lot of other people in that time. So if you have symptoms, get tested right away.
Thank you. I think the key points to remember here is if my child or myself gets sent home sick, we need to get tested on the first day and ask for a molecular or a PCR test. Well, thank you for being here today, Nurse Cottle and Dr. Olson. And Thank you for joining us for Navigating Back to School.